so we're going to talk today about properties of special parallelograms. So I've went ahead and given you a sheet of graph paper, and we're going to go ahead and go through, and we're going to draw a rhombus on that. So let's review what a rhombus is. In fact, a rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. It's 4 congruent sides. It is also called an equilateral parallelogram. And so if you want to go ahead and look at page 291, okay, page 291, we're going to go ahead and complete that investigation. And so as we're working on that investigation, I'll go ahead and stop the video, and then we'll continue on then with the conjectures. Okay, so we have a conjecture here. The diagonals of a rhombus are what? So what do you notice about every diagonal? Okay, a little bit more, because that'll be with the rhombus angles. This is the diagonals. Look at those diagonals. They're perpendicular. Yep, there you go. So, oops, let me go ahead and pick up the ink. So they are perpendicular, and they bisect each other. So they cut each other into 2 congruent parts. Now it says they bisect each other. That doesn't mean that all 4 parts are equal. That just means that they bisected each other into 2 halves. So now you caught this one first. The blank of a rhombus, blank the angles of the rhombus. What do you think goes in the blanks?
The diagonals of the rhombus bisect.
Perfect. The diagonals of a rhombus bisect the angles of the rhombus. So nice job. So with that thought in mind, with the sides being bisected and the diagonals bisecting the angles, what can we conclude about a rhombus? What does it create when you draw the diagonals in? When I draw the diagonals in a rhombus, what does that create?
Vertical angles.
4
triangles.
congruent triangles. Nice job. 4 congruent triangles. Okay? All right, so with that in mind, we're going to now learn about rectangles. And so let's review a little bit about what a rectangle is. A rectangle is a parallelogram with 4 congruent angles. Now, if it's 4 congruent angles in a 4-sided figure, every angle is what? 90 degrees, because we have 360. Remember, we have 360 degrees total. And if we take 360 degrees total and divide that by 4, that makes 90 degrees. So basically, it's a parallelogram with 4 right angles. It would also be called an equiangular parallelogram. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to complete the investigation on page 293. Once again, I'll go ahead and pick up the video when we are done with that. Okay, so the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent and they bisect each other, just like with a rhombus. Okay, except for with the rhombus, they weren't congruent. With the rectangle, they are. So now the last thing we're going to look at today is we're going to look at some properties of squares. So let's go ahead and refresh our memory a little bit. A square is an equiangular rhombus or an equilateral rectangle. So think about that, an equiangular rhombus. So a rhombus, all 4 sides are the same. Equiangular means all angles have to be the same. With a rectangle, all angles are the same, and equilateral means all sides are the same. So what I need you to do right now is I need you to go ahead and draw a square. Somewhere squeeze it.
Can we put it on the back?
That's fine if you want to put it on the back. Go ahead and squeeze the square into your paper somewhere, and we're going to go ahead and look at what the diagonals of a square do. And we've got 3 blanks to fill in. They bisect each other.
Yes. I meant to say perfect.
Okay, so you've completed the investigation. You should have found that the diagonals of a square are congruent, they're perpendicular, and they bisect each other. The diagonals of a square are congruent, they're perpendicular, and they bisect each other. So you're going to use those tidbits of information on your assignment today. Now your assignment today is a little longer because you've got some true and falses.
What?
On pages 294 through 295, you have number 1 through 16. Now, real quick, if we look at 1 through 10, notice what the instructions state. State whether each statement is always true, sometimes true, or never true. Use sketches or explanations to support your answer. So
Is that 1 through 10?
Yeah, that is 1 through 10, and then you need to do 11 through 16. Okay, that is due tomorrow.